If you could place Zion Williamson as the commissioner for the good of the league, where would you place him?
Well, everybody wants me to say New York. The league functions just fine with the Knicks being a dog. The league is functioning just fine with the Knicks being a dog for most of the last 23 years. So I'm not necessarily going to say New York. I mean, I got my own bias. You know, I'd love to see him in Chicago. I'd love to see him, you know, go to a place where there's been a little more, not much more recent success, but some. They've gotten to the conference finals. But in terms of like the bad teams, the teams that we know are going to be in the lottery, is there some place in there that's just irresistible? Is there a small market situation? I don't know. I mean, if he goes to the Knicks, Dan, I'm not going to be upset because the Knicks are so bad it's warranted. Here's where I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him in Cleveland because Cleveland's had 4 overall number ones, and they don't have any of them. LeBron, Kyrie, Wiggins, and the kid from Vegas.
But what is there a domino effect that could happen? Let's say the Knicks win the lottery.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, if you're Kyrie and or Kevin Durant, does that make it a little more enticing?
A lot more.
Okay.
A lot more.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot more. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's interesting to be in Charlotte this past weekend. And just, you know, the previous week, I was in Southern California doing some studio things. I also got a chance to go to a couple of games. And, you know, the reason this whole thing popped up during the Anthony Davis crazy talk was that players and coaches and agents and people in the NBA, Dan, believe, a lot of them, and help fuel the fire about who's going to New York.
Yeah.
And all the Kevin Durant and Kyrie talk. That stuff didn't cut. It wasn't just like media generated. It was generated into the dissemination came through us. But there are people talking openly about it, which means where'd they get it? And you know what a gossip league the NBA is.
Yeah.
I mean, much more so to me than the other leagues. The NBA thrives on that. Does it mean that everything is true? No, it doesn't. But it does mean that this talk was generated from people who have conversations, who are on the court and in locker rooms and in proximity to those guys.
Oh, well, I said the last time you were on that KD was not going to L.A. because he doesn't want – he thinks he's the best player in the game, and he might be the best player in the game. He doesn't want to help LeBron's legacy, and that's why I said that I think he's done with Golden State. He doesn't want to be the villain. He ruined basketball for a few years. He can go to New York, maybe Kyrie – is good. And I go back to when I went to the premiere of Uncle Drew. KD came in, and he sat right behind us because he's best friends with Kyrie Irving. He's not even in the movie, and he went to the premiere, Mike. Like
appearances,
yeah.
Right? Keep them up. Listen. The thing that I've heard, Dan, is just. Again, from people who share court space and time, and you know, it could be opponents aren't opponents anymore. These guys don't hate each other by and large. Just the opposite. The thing I hear is that both of them, that Kyrie and Kevin, and I'm sure you talked about this in previous shows, that they don't feel that the championships they won are theirs, belong to them primarily, and that's what the preoccupation with doing it somewhere else is. Winning somewhere else because that would be their championship. And so, look, there's a lot of time. I don't spend a lot of time insisting I know what the guys are going to go. It's like looking at poll numbers in August and trying to tell me you know what's going to happen November 4th. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in that, but there's so much smoke. There's so much smoke. And I like you start thinking, okay, what is it that these guys are thinking? And I know other players are thinking about this. So do you think there's a cold envelope, to go back to a reference from yesteryear? Is there a cold envelope, Dan? Is there something that, is he going to be in that Knicks jersey? Zion, that is?
Mike, I was at that lottery.
I know you were.
I was at that lottery. I covered that draft, and I just remember everybody was like, he's got to go to the Knicks. He's got to go to the Knicks. And all of a sudden, Patrick Ewing goes to the Knicks, and then – and I've been around the commissioner, Commissioner Stern. Do not go there with the commissioner.
Oh, I know.
You can't even
joke about it. You cannot joke about it. I know we both tried.
Yeah, you just envelope, it feels a little cold, and then he'll give you the cold shoulder there with something like that.
Where do you want to see him?
Durant?
No, Zion.
I'd like to see him in New York. I not that owner deserves.
He absolutely does not deserve.
But I just want to see the Garden come back because I know what it was, and there's like 2 generations that don't even know what it was like.
Yes.
And if you had the seismic shift of the NBA would be New York, Philly, and Boston again, and you would still have Golden State and maybe the Lakers a little bit, but you'd almost be coming back, to the 70s and 80s where you had these teams that were in contention.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.